Welcome back everyone. We're going to be doing another comparison today between the OnePlus 8 Pro and the iPhone XS Max. Now, you guys already know how everything goes. I've been doing a ton of 8 Pro comparisons, and honestly the XS Max, is the older phone. It's not a brand new phone anymore. It was at one point, but right now you can pick up one of these. They retailed about $10.99 when they first came out. You can pick one of them up on Amazon for less than like $520, which is pretty crazy. It's a very good phone. It has a lot of life left in it. The build quality is great and everything, so you can pick up a OnePlus 8 Pro for about $1,000, give or take. I think there's an $899 model or something, but those are really hard to come by. I had to pay $1,000 for this one, which kind of sucked, but I'll go and leave a link to both of these in the description below on Amazon, so you can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. But looking on the front of both, and I guess I'll go ahead and start off there. We'll start off with the iPhone XS Max. This phone has a 6.5-inch Super Retina OLED display. It's 1242 by 2688, and it's a pretty good panel, you know what I mean? It's not an ugly panel. It looks pretty good. And with it being OLED, that's literally one of my favorite things ever. Really, I've been using this phone a lot. Whenever I make videos on my second channel, sometimes I drop videos using this thing, and I use this thing a lot. And the display has been one of my favorite things about it. I like how big it is. I like the slim bezels. I like how the notch really doesn't get in the way too much. And I think the build quality is still one of my favorite things about it for sure. Now, is it like the best looking phone in the world? Is it the best screen? Not really. I mean, there's a lot of other phones out there that do much better, but I still think overall it's still a very good looking phone and a very good looking display. It has True Tone on it too. I don't know if I said that, and that's also a very cool thing for sure. So the display on this thing still holds up, and it's still a very good looking display at the end of the day. Whereas on the OnePlus 8 Pro, it has a 6.78-inch Fluid AMOLED display. This one is 1440p, and honestly, between both, I mean, this is probably the better panel. Not even just because, oh, it looks so much better in this or that. It's honestly because of one feature only, and that's the 120Hz refresh rate on this display. That's honestly one of my favorite things ever. If you don't have it, if you've never seen it, then it's probably not going to make too much sense to you, but basically what it is that it makes everything look so much smoother. You know, when you're watching these videos, they're all in 30 frames, at least mine. If you watch like 60 frames, it's so much smoother. Now imagine going to 120 frames. Now that's kind of a weird analogy, but that's kind of what it is. It's like so smooth. It's just like so fluid, and I love it. So for sure, at the end of the day, the displays, honestly, they look kind of the same. There's not like one display that looks substantially better, but just in like everyday use by use cases, I think the 120Hz refresh rate on the OnePlus 8 Pro just makes up for every single thing for the display. So I would probably say the OnePlus 8 Pro has the better display between these two for sure. On the bottom, they have a Lightning port on the iPhone XS Max and a USB Type-C port on the OnePlus 8 Pro. And on the back, glass backs on both. I do have a skin on my XS Max. Quadruple camera setup on the OnePlus 8 Pro and a dual camera setup on the iPhone XS Max. And as I've stated before, looks can be deceiving. Just because you have more camera sensors doesn't mean it's the better camera, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you also have IP certification on some models of this phone on the OnePlus 8 Pro. The unlocked versions apparently don't have it, which is weird, and this is the unlocked version, so I don't know what's going on with that. But the iPhone XS Max does have IP68 dust and water resistance on all models, so you can go up to 2 meters of water for 30 minutes, which is honestly really cool, and I really do like that. So in terms of the outside, like, one doesn't feel crazy more premium than the other one. I do like the matte texture on the back of the OnePlus 8 Pro, definitely feels nicer, but the XS Max still feels extremely good as well. Now, the skin is just there because I have a cracked back, but honestly, I still know what it feels like. I've owned many of these phones before. So I definitely do think in terms of the outside, one doesn't blow the other one out of the water, but the OnePlus 8 Pro is probably the better feeling one in a lot of ways. So that really pretty much covers it up there. But like I stated before, looks can be deceiving, and just because this is the better looking phone doesn't mean it's the best phone. And when it comes down to software, that is not any more truer than comparing an Android to an iOS. And with the OnePlus 8 Pro, I mean, it's starting off with Android 10. It's honestly probably going to end with Android 13 or something, because the OnePlus 5 and 5T just got Android 10. So the Android 6 is going to stop at Android 11, the Android 7 is going to stop at Android 12. So these are going to be stopping at Android 13 potentially, and that's a long time from now. That's not like it's tomorrow. So these are going to be lasting for a very long time. But even at that point, the iPhone XS Max is probably going to outlast the OnePlus 8 Pro still. This phone is going to be lasting for a very long time. It started off with iOS 12. It's really only one generation behind. We only have the iPhone 11 series, and this was the generation right before that. So this one is still going to be getting software updates for a very long time. As right now it's on iOS 13, and like I stated, I think it's going to be lasting, probably outlasting the OnePlus 8 Pro. If not, they're going to be ending around the same time, but even then the iPhone XS Max I'd probably still end up siding with. Now there is still a chance for the OnePlus 8 Pro to get custom ROMs and everything like that, which is really cool, so I think that would be a really awesome thing for the future. But between both right now, they're still being supported, so that's a very important thing. It's cool to look at, like, towards in the future, but it's also important to look at it now, and both phones are still being supported, which is totally okay. So in terms of that, that pretty much covers it. Now I'll go ahead and do a little bit of a speed test between them too, but I'll go ahead and tell you the specs between them. The iPhone XS Max has the Apple A12 Bionic chip, Hex-core CPU, and 4 gigs of RAM on all the models, where the OnePlus 8 Pro has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset, octa-core CPU, and 8 gigs of RAM on the base model, and 12 gigs of RAM on the top tier models. So let's go and see which one is the faster one between both of these. Okay, now that we're back, let's go and clear out all the apps in the background, and it looks like we had a lot on the iPhone XS Max. Okay, so let's go and start loading them up. Let's go and do, I have these third-party apps here that I might as well get started with. Let's do Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. And the OnePlus 8 Pro is faster, followed by the iPhone XS Max. Snake vs. Blocks, 3, 2, 1. And OnePlus 8 Pro faster, followed by the XS Max just a little bit behind. You know, not too crazy, but just a little bit, noticeably. Thank you, 3, 2, 1. And OnePlus 8 Pro faster, followed by the iPhone XS Max a little bit behind it. Getting into some gameplay, you're not going to notice any difference at all. They're going to be about the same. Stack, 3, 2, 1. And a little bit of a pop-up here. And even then, I mean, I don't really know, but this one did get into the ad faster, which is usually what I base it off of. Fruit Ninja, 3, 2, 1. And OnePlus 8 Pro faster, followed by the iPhone XS Max a little bit behind. So definitely a little bit of a difference there. Nothing too crazy, but definitely noticeable. Facebook, 3, 2, 1. And OnePlus 8 Pro slightly faster. Twitter, 3, 2, 1. OnePlus 8 Pro faster, followed by the XS Max a little bit behind. I forgot what phone this was. Instagram, 3, 2, 1. Now I think I'm in an account here. So I'm in an account here, so it's a little bit of a difference. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And as you can see, the 8 Pro is just flowing by. It's definitely, noticeably ahead of the iPhone XS Max. And we are into it on the Temple Run 2 on the OnePlus 8 Pro. And eventually we get into it on the XS Max. Let's go and end it off with the Real Racing 3, 3, 2, 1. And one thing about the OnePlus 8 Pro, every time I hit it, it just goes flying because of the little camera bump it has in the back, which is really annoying. And we're already loaded on the 8 Pro. And we're still loading on the iPhone XS Max. And eventually we get into it on the XS Max, and that was a pretty big difference. It's not like one was just a little bit behind. That one was pretty apparent, and I think with these newer phones, they're doing much better with gaming and all that stuff. In terms of the whole entire speed comparison, what I'll tell you is I think the XS Max is still a fast phone, but I think the 8 Pro is definitely a little bit faster for sure. It's definitely ahead in terms of the speed, and I wouldn't necessarily go from the XS Max to the 8 Pro just based off the performance, but the performance is definitely better on the 8 Pro at the end of the day. So I'll go ahead and do a separate speed test as well as a separate camera test, but I'll briefly hit on the camera in this video. The XS Max has a dual camera setup. The 8 Pro has a quadruple camera setup. We have two 12 megapixel sensors, a wide angle lens, and a telephoto lens. On the 8 Pro, we have a 48 megapixel wide angle lens, 8 megapixel telephoto lens, 48 megapixel ultra wide sensor, and then a 5 megapixel depth sensor. And honestly, you might be reading that, you might already assume, oh, the 8 Pro is the better camera, but in my opinion, I think the XS Max has a better quality. I think you have more features on the 8 Pro. That is 100% probably the case, but I think on the XS Max, you'll probably end up getting better photos and videos on the XS Max. You can do 4K at 60, which is really cool on both, but even then, I would probably still end up siding with the iPhone XS Max. I feel like the quality of the photos and videos are better there than they are on the 8 Pro. On the front, you have a 16 megapixel wide angle lens on the 8 Pro and a 7 megapixel lens on the XS Max. And even this one, I would probably end up setting with the iPhone XS Max. You can do 60 frames at 1080p on the XS Max, where you can only do 1080p at 30 on. So even then, I would probably still end up setting with the XS Max. Now, when you get off with the battery life, the iPhone XS Max has a 3,174 mAh battery, the 8 Pro has a 4,510 mAh battery, and here is probably where the bigger differences are. I would still say the battery life is better on the 8 Pro for sure. And it's not necessarily just because it's the bigger battery and everything, but it probably has a lot to do with that. You also have a smaller battery on the XS Max, surprisingly for the size. I mean, this phone has pretty much the same battery as the 11 Pro does, and it's a much bigger screen, a much bigger phone, and we probably would have expected them to put a bigger battery in here, but they didn't at the time. But in terms of battery life, I would probably end up siding with the 8 Pro for sure. Now to answer the question, should you pick up the 8 Pro from a XS Max or vice versa? I'll say, the better bang for its buck is probably the XS Max. You're getting an insanely awesome phone. It can really almost do everything the 8 Pro can do, just maybe not like as fast or something, but between both, I think you're getting an extremely good phone on the 8 Pro, but you're still getting a pretty good phone on the XS Max for sure. I mean, this is still a very capable phone. It's still plenty fast. The cameras are great, probably better than the 8 Pro. The screen is really good too, and honestly, there's not a lot of things to hate. So the 8 Pro is a great phone for a brand new phone, but the XS Max is still an awesome phone for sure. So that really pretty much covers it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that means so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate if you guys would check it out. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.